my shades on. These are the hate blockers right here. So what's up, Far Hillsers? So glad that you're joining us here tonight. Last week we obviously had our first house night and it was beautiful. We are endeavoring upon the next video, the last part of our series right now. We are in week 3 of our series on subject to change. And last week what we talked about was that no matter what, God is with us, that no matter what, through thick and thin, He is with us through every trial and storm. And so we're still talking about how God is with us in every trial and storm, but we're also talking about change and how change dramatically impacts our life. And I was thinking about how there's been so many times in my life where I've had to change so many things that I'm doing, that I've had to change different aspects of my life, do different things to be able to be a better just human being in general, if you will. And one of the things was that I used to go to McDonald's like almost every weekend with my friends, and one of my friends, his name was Big Lig. Big Lig would always get, and he introduced me to something, he'd always get a McChicken and a McDouble and put them together. And so we're gonna go and show you. Oh my gosh, I'm going straight. That was crazy. What happened? I used to get a sandwich from Big Leg, and it was a McChicken and a McDouble inside each other. And so you're gonna come and you're gonna check this out with us, and we're gonna give a little taste test to see if it's the same since high school.
Welcome, how may I help you?
Hi, yes, I was looking to get a McChicken and a McDouble.
You want a McChicken and a McDouble?
Yeah.
Will that be all?
Yes.
Okay, $2.49 at the window, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. So here's what's going on. I'm gonna need you to get a nice little shot of this, Michael. We got a McChicken, okay? A delicacy of the American culture. And a McDouble right here, okay? And we're just gonna go ahead, we're just gonna set up a nice little table here. So what you do is you open this up. Oh yeah, there you go. That looks mighty tasty. Oh, goodness. There you go. You separate those. And then you take the McChicken here and you just put it anywhere right there. You see that? See it? Go ahead, get a nice little shot of that. Look at that right there, okay? And then you just take that's yummy. That is so good. So not only did I go out when I was in high school and eat those McChickens and McDoubles kind of compacted together, my friends and I would go out and we'd have Taco Bell and other fast food like all the time. And believe it or not, there's 2 things about fast food like all the time that aren't good for you. Number 1, it's terrible for your physical health. And number 2, it's terrible for your wallet. Believe it or not. And so here's the thing that I began to realize and know. I needed to be able to make a change in my life and eliminate those things from my diet. It was not helping me in any way at all whatsoever. And what I began to realize was there was certain changes that had to happen, no matter how difficult they may be, no matter how much my taste buds wanted to be able to actually have them. I had to be able to make changes in my life to have a better life and lifestyle. And there's so many different things in our lives today that we know we need to be able to drop in order to be able to make better changes in our life. Like things that we need to be able to course correct in order for us to be able to flourish more. So for instance, there's different things that we need to be able to do in school to be able to help our grade get up, right? Like maybe we need to drop the remote, maybe we need to cut out some time on Netflix, maybe we need to stop playing so much Fortnite in order to be able to actually raise our F in geometry. Maybe there is a friendship, someone that is completely and utterly just draining us like day in and day out that we know is constantly maybe a bad influence in our life, and our parents don't necessarily want them in our life, and we know we have to do the hard work of slowly cutting them out of our schedule to be able to get there. Maybe it's your sports team. Maybe you know that you need to be able to work harder to be able to get to that next spot, that next position, that next place, but it's going to require work that you don't necessarily want to have to do in order to get there. And maybe even deeper than that, maybe it's something in your personality. Like maybe there's things that you say, ways that you act with other people that are maybe mean, or maybe you don't even mean them to be mean, but maybe they're harsh in some ways that you need to be able to change in your life in order for you to interact with people better. No matter what it is, all of us have things in our lives that we need to change, that we need to drop in order to live and to be greater followers of Christ and to be able to flourish in the society around us, right? We all need to change, but it's really difficult to change. We all need to have things happen in our life to create greater circumstances, but it's difficult to actually rip the Band-Aid off and do those things. And I think there's a couple different reasons why we don't do it, like why we don't endeavor upon change and actually begin to fix different things in our life. I think number one, we're afraid to fail. Right? Like we know that we have something that we need to do. We know that some change needs to actually happen, but we don't know what's on the other side of that change, so we don't actually attempt it. We don't step forward in faith. We just go ahead and we walk away from it because we're afraid we're going to look like an idiot and we're going to fail. I think number two, we're afraid we're going to stand out. Like if we have to tell a group of friends that we have to leave them in order that our walk with Christ flourishes and is greater, we're going to look like Beaver Cleaver, right? Like we're going to look like this weirdo who had to leave this group of friends to be able to have a better walk with Christ, and we're going to stand out, and we don't want to look like that. I think another one is that we don't want to seem judgmental. Like because we are making different choices that may have a healthier lifestyle and a better walk with Jesus, we're going to end up looking like we are judgmental when we may not even be judgmental, and we don't want to appear that way to our friends and those around us. And the last one is I don't think we attempt change because it's overwhelming, right? Like we don't want to change things in our lives because then it seems like all these little dominoes begin to pop up and all these different things begin to happen, and then now suddenly everything's different. It seems like our whole course of our life has been changed, and we no longer are on the same trajectory that we were before, and it's just easier to stay the same. But here's the thing. The good news is that through Jesus Christ, through God coming in the flesh, dying and living a life that we could never live, He has made a way for our lives to be completely changed. He has made a way for our entire being to be able to be renewed. He has made a way for us to be able to be forgiven in areas that we can't forgive ourselves. He has made a way for us to actually be changed. And we are saved and we are redeemed by His love and care. Now the thing is, once we are saved and redeemed, we end up going on a walk with Christ throughout our entire life, and that process of walking with Jesus is called sanctification. And sanctification is God's way of slowly changing us, slowly molding us, slowly bringing us into the image of Himself, making us look more like Jesus. He is slowly changing us. And we see in the book of James that a lot of times that Jesus, the Holy Spirit, uses change in our lives to be able to slowly bring about this sanctification process. And I just want to encourage us today with this just writing from the book of James. Now, brief background on the book of James. If you want to go ahead and stop the video or be able to have a moment to be able to talk about the book of James, small group leaders, feel free to go ahead and do that right here. But the book of James is essentially a book written by Jesus' half-brother. Jesus' half-brother was one of Jesus' disciples. He was with Jesus. He followed Jesus. And at the end of the book of Matthew, all of the disciples, including the half-brother of James, were given a commandment called the Great Commission to go out and to spread the good news of what Jesus has done on earth to other people. And so they begin to go out, they begin to spread this message, they begin to share all these different things, and out of nowhere, or what seems out of nowhere, they begin to get persecuted. They begin to be reviled, they begin to be hated, and they begin to be shut out, and they begin to suffer greatly for what they're going through. They begin to experience trial and storm in their life, and the change that they're trying to bring out about the world, the change that they're trying to breathe into the life and those around them begin to revolt. And so James writes a letter to the other disciples and to us today that's very practical, that's very helpful. In James 1:2-4, here's what it says. It says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." James is stating to us today. James is stating to you in the 21st century, in your high school, in your middle school, in the places that you work, your hobbies, your sports. He is stating that God uses trials, temptation, storm, difficulty to be able to mold you into his image. He is using change to be able to strengthen you and to bring you into his process of sanctification. And so the main idea that I want us to understand, I want us to know, that I think James is trying to promote to you tonight, is that God can change the way you see change. God can use difficult circumstances in your life. God can use your new perspective on life to be able to change you, to be able to mold you, and actually change the way that you see difficulty in your life. Here's what this means. We no longer see suffering as a difficulty to simply get through, but we see it as an opportunity to be able to grow in. Does that make sense? So let me repeat myself. We don't see change as something that's just hard. We don't see change as something that's just terrible. We don't see difficulty as just some sort of mountain to climb or some sort of impossible, overwhelming task. But we now see change as something that is able to grow us, as this opportunity to be able to push into Christ, to be able to learn, to be able to be more faithful to Him, to be able to be greater followers of Him. We don't see it as some impossible task. We see it as an opportunity to be able to grow and to be able to learn what His power in our lives actually looks like. And so why would we end up embracing change? Why would we embrace difficulty and trial and storm, just as James says here? I think God is using it to be able to make you trust Him more. Like, you may not see tomorrow. You may not see why God is using this right now. But we need to trust that He is using the difficulties that you are encountering right now, the simple things that you feel like are difficult today, to be able to make you trust and lean on Him more and lower your anxieties in life. I think He's also trying to make you a better friend, a better daughter, a better son, a better family member. He's trying to make you and mold you into someone who loves other people more and can empathize with them. I think He's also using it to strengthen your future. Like, He is building something in you, creating you to be men and women of God who are ferociously going after the culture for the sake of His kingdom, His love, and His care. And He's using the trials and struggles that you are going through today, the changes of everyday life, to be able to strengthen you for tomorrow and build into you. Because as you get older, life will not get easier. It only gets more difficult. I know right now it may seem like high school is hard and that college will be better, that one day once you have a wife, a husband, a family, a job, that everything will be awesome, everything will be cool, everything will be perfect, and you'll be good to go. But it's not true. Life will only get more difficult. God will just provide you with more opportunities to be able to get stronger. Okay, so as you are facing each trial and storm, God is using those things to strengthen you for moments in the future where you will need to be stronger, where you will have to rely upon Him more, where you will have to know more about His grace and mercy in your life to be able to prepare for that time. So the question is, What do we do with this? What do we do with change? What do we do with this new perspective that God has given us on difficulty and change in our lives? I think the one thing that we must do, and this is very, very important, I want you to hear this, okay? Listen up here. I think that we need to change the way that we see change. That instead of seeing it as an impossible trial and something difficult, we need to change the way we actually see it. And the question is, how? I want you this week, okay, in your house, I want you to talk about what you're going to choose. I want you to choose one thing, one area, one difficulty that you're having right now, or one place that you are struggling with, that you need to change in your life in order to further your relationship with the Lord and become more like Him. And I mentioned a couple earlier. It could be something with school. You need to work harder. Maybe it's something with your family. You need to love them more. Maybe it's something with your friends. You need to drop a friendship, or maybe you need to gain a friendship. Something in your life that you feel like the Lord is calling you to be able to use to grow closer to Him. And I want you to write this week, sometime while you're spending time alone with the Lord, I want you to write a brief paragraph out why that God is using this trial and this temptation to be able to grow you, to be able to mold you, and to be able to form you into who He is. And so as we go about this week, I want us to remember that God can change the way that you see change. That there is no situation that is greater than Him. There is no problem that is bigger than Him. I want us to go into small group sharing the difficulties that we have today and how He is working in our lives for tomorrow.